Today on Talk to Kimi, I'm delighted to welcome international thriller master, Mr. Mark Billingham. Hi Mark, how are you?
I'm good, Kimi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good as well, thank you. Mark, after leaving university, you helped to form a theatre company called Bread and Circuses, and then you moved to London in the mid-80s to become an actor. What was your expectations at that time?
I'm not sure I really had any expectations. I wanted to be an actor. I mean, an actor is all I wanted to be since I was about 14. So I studied drama, and then together with a bunch of fellow drama students, we formed that theatre company you mentioned. And that was great fun, actually, for a couple of years, touring all over the country. I mean, it's hard work, hunting sets in and out of vans and doing shows all over the place, doing theatre and education, doing all sorts of stuff. And I did that for a few years, and the company became kind of a recognised company, and we all got equity cards and so on. And at that time, really, if you wanted to work, in television like that, you kind of had to move to London. So yeah, in the mid-80s, I moved to London. I left that company and just started touting myself about as an actor, and didn't have much, as I said, in the way of expectation, because I know that actors spend an awful lot of time out of work. But I was lucky enough to get a bunch of stuff. I did a lot of television work, ironically playing coppers, villains, in stuff like Juliet Bravo and Dempsey and Makepeace and all those kind of shows. And did that until I stopped getting work. And then went, this is how I thought it was going to be, which is when I kind of drifted into stand-up comedy.
So you mentioned there that you were in Juliet Bravo, Dempsey and Makepeace, and then moved over to the stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
With all good actors playing kind of baddie roles, the audience like to get involved and almost boo them like pantomime characters. How many times were you booed when you were as a stand-up?
Oh, many times. Many times. I mean, it's part and parcel of the job as a stand-up. I mean, there isn't a single stand-up you can name who I haven't seen booed off stage. Jack D and Joe Brand and Eddie Izzard and almost anybody you can think of. I've worked with all of them over the years. And every comedian dies now and again. And 9 times out of 10, it's got nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. You do quite often, working on the stand-up circuit, you might do 3 or even 4 shows a night. And 3 of those shows doing exactly the same set, you're, cheered off, and you get encores, and then you do the material one more time the same night, and it dies. So it's nothing to do with you, it's nothing to do with the material, it's to do with the makeup of an audience that's just tired, or there's one very troublesome table sitting right at the front that can destroy a whole evening. It's kind of part and parcel of it, and if you can't handle that, then you're in the wrong job. It's no different to getting a bad review when you write a book. Sometimes you walk on stage and you just go, nope, this isn't working. It's not pleasant. It's never pleasant. Even when you've been doing it 20 years, it's never pleasant. But it goes with the territory,
I've read that you're a massive reader, particularly crime, which is no surprise that you write that now. Who would you say was your inspiration for becoming a writer?
Oh, so many people. I mean, it goes right back to when I, first read Sherlock Holmes, or in fact had Sherlock Holmes read to me when I was about 12 or 13, and then I discovered, the kind of American hard-boiled brigade, Chandler and Hammett and Ross MacDonald, and then, and popular fiction was a huge influence on me. I remember reading Jaws and The Godfather back to back one summer, and those 2 books absolutely knocked me for 6. I'd never read books like that. I didn't know books could do that. Were that powerful. And from that point on, I just, almost everything I read was crime fiction. I remember picking up, Red Dragon and Silence of the Lambs and reading those, and just thinking, oh my God, reading all the great writers of crime fiction series. Read all the John Harvey Resnick books and the James Lee Burke books and the Ian Rankin books and Michael Connolly and virtually anybody I could get hold of. And I suppose I think I was probably quite influenced by the American writers in that I wanted to write books that I thought had an American sense of pace. We're very British. Obviously, they're going to be British. I'm British, but I wanted that kind of American pace. I suppose I can't really put it any better than that. I was trying to write the kind of book I imagined reading.
You've done a number of interviews with authors. How did that come about for you?
Well, I've always liked chatting to other authors. I mean, before I was published, my kind of way into the whole crime fiction world was to work as a kind of journalist. And before I was published, I interviewed Michael Connolly, I interviewed Ian Rankin. These are now friends of mine. It's funny how it goes. I still find that very exciting. And I've carried on doing that. As part of the, I've been very closely involved in the Harrogate Crime Festival since it began, and I've interviewed some amazing authors as part of that festival on stage. Dennis Lehane and Karen Slaughter and John Connolly and all sorts of people. I like chatting to authors. I think authors in conversation is always a good event. I'm about to go off on an American tour, and each of the events I do will be a conversation with another author in each city. And these are friends that I've got to know, over 15 years, and they're coming out in their own cities to interview me. So, in New York, I'll be talking to Lee Child, and in Tampa, I'll be talking to Michael Connolly, and in Baltimore, I'll be talking to Laura Lippman. And, they're conversations which I think are always more fun for an audience to see how two authors who know each other, who have a rapport with each other, who respect one another, just to watch them having a chat for an hour, just like they're putting their feet up in a pub.
Which I suspect sometimes you will be.
That will be happening afterwards, for sure. Once we've done the official event and some books have been signed, then we should be repairing to a nearby watering hole, almost certainly.
If you were given the opportunity to interview any literary character, which one would it be and why?
A literary character? Oh, that's interesting. Funnily enough, I've done, for something a few years ago, I interviewed Tom Thorne, which is kind of strange. But I did that, which was quite interesting. Like you say, the baddies are always so much fun. It'd be good to sit down and not sit down. I'd do it by email. I'd quite like to interview Hannibal Lecter, but I wouldn't do it one-on-one.
Okay.
Because I think if he didn't like the questions, he'd bite my face off. But maybe an email exchange. Yeah, I think villains are always fun to talk to. They're always fun to put yourself inside these characters' heads when you're writing the books. Devil's got the best tunes, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Mark, 2001, Sleepyhead was published. At that point, could you ever have imagined that in only 8 years' time, you'd become the first crime writer to win Theakston's Old Peculiar Crime Novel of the Year award twice, ahead of opposition, including, as you've mentioned, Ian Rankin, Val McDermid?
Well, it was amazing to win. It was amazing to win the Theakstons the first time, let alone the second time. It's an award that means a lot because readers are very much involved in voting for it. And no, I got lucky very quickly. I got lucky just getting Sleepyhead published, and it was very well published, which of course is a euphemism for it had some money spent on it. It was very well marketed. And, the publisher went to bat for it and got it into the bestseller list. And once that happens, you've got to screw up quite badly. You get a readership fairly quickly, and then it's yours to lose. You've just got to keep trying to write better books. And it's been a bit of a I'm writing my 17th novel, and it only seems like 5 minutes since I wrote Sleepyhead. It's very strange.
At that time, did you know that D.I. Tom Thorne was going to be a long-running character?
Well, no. I'd always loved series, and when I first met with publishers, the first question they asked back then in 2000 was, "Is this going to be a series?" And I kind of went, "Yep." I wasn't. I didn't really know. I was just trying to give them the answer they wanted. I didn't know very much about Tom Thorne at that point. He wasn't really the main character in the first book. He had the most stage time, as it were, but the book was really about this character, Alison Willits, about the victim, which has always been something very important to me. But yeah, I was very happy to carry on writing about Thorne, and suddenly here I am now writing about him again, 16, 17 years on. But that's because I don't know very much about him. I don't know any more about him than the reader does, so I'm still getting to know him.
You're still learning about him, yeah.
Yeah, and that way he's unpredictable, because, I don't literally mean that, I don't know what he's going to do on the next page, because, I'm doing the typing, he'll do what I want him to do. But, I have no plan for him, so anything could happen.
Okay. Just touching on the side of the victim, you yourself, almost like a story out of a book, experienced a horrific time in a Manchester hotel. You're kidnapped.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Held hostage in a hotel room. Yeah.
How does that affect your outlook on life, though, Mark?
Well, it was a bit iffy for a few years, because at that time I was still working as a stand-up, and I was staying in hotels a lot. That's kind of what you do. You travel around, and I was very nervous about staying in hotels. I'm still not 100% comfortable staying in hotels, but you have to, and you have to get over these things. It did mean that when I sat down to write the books, it was always going to be victim front and centre, and writing about what it's like to be afraid, properly afraid, not kind of watching a horror film afraid, but, you're going to see your family again afraid. So, yeah, it definitely fed into what I write, and I think it still does.
Get that sense out of every book that you've written, that it is all centred around the victim.
Well, I mean, I've read an awful lot of novels, and I still read an awful lot of novels where the victim is just a plot device. The victim is just, there's a victim, or there's 6 victims, or 12 victims. And it's really all about this battle between a cop and a killer, and I'm just not interested in that stuff anymore. And the victim has got to be a character you care about, that you engage with. I mean, the writers I respect, what they're writing about is what an act of violence does to people, what it does to the people left behind, families and communities, and the victims are important, for God's sake, they have to be.
Yeah. Mark, you've just released your latest book, Die of Shame. As a football fan, I support Dundee United, a little team you may not have heard of. And that title pretty much sums up our season last year. Which title would you say sums up your team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, season?
Oh, well, there's an earlier book of mine called Buried, which is what we've been in for the last few seasons. No, Die of Shame serves us as well. It's constant kind of disappointing sleeping giants. We're going to do it this season, we're going to get back up to the Premiership, and then we might get back up to the Premiership, and then we just go straight back down again. But that's the joy of supporting a football team, is the constant ups and downs.
Or the downs and downs.
A lot more downs lately, but I mean, in fact, I when I started with Thorne was always going to be a football fan, and because he's a Londoner, obviously I wanted to give him a London team, and at that time Tottenham were very much like Wolves. They were kind of, former glories, and they'd never really hadn't done anything for years and years. They were kind of like the Wolves of London. And now, of course, nearly won the flipping Premiership last year. If I was to start the series again, Thorne wouldn't now support Spurs. He'd support, Crystal Palace or QPR or something like that.
Okay. Or Dundee United.
Or Dundee United.
Okay, Mark, what's coming up for the rest of this year for you?
Well, like I say, I'm off on tour next week to America, and then there's a bunch of festivals in the summer. Notably Harrogate, that's the big one, and then Edinburgh and stuff. I'm trying to finish the book I'm currently writing, about 3/4 of the way through. Then towards the end of the year, the TV series based on a couple of earlier books will be out on BBC, so there'll be publicity and stuff to do for that, and just then start thinking about next year's book.
As part of novels, you always see people creeping about in the background. The impact of stalking these days, and you've got visions of people creeping about in dark gardens and peeking through windows. How do you feel about garden gnomes?
How do I feel about garden gnomes?
Yeah.
I quite like it. I quite like garden gnomes, actually. I went past a house the other day. Where was I? I was in Norwich, and I went past a house in Norwich, and there were about 150 garden gnomes in the garden. Obviously in the garden, but climbing up the walls and hanging out the windows, and that was obviously a person who really, really loved garden gnomes. I really am quite a fan of garden gnomes. Sadly, my wife isn't, so we don't have any. So every time I see one, I go, "Oh, look, a lovely gnome." She just kind of,
thumps you.
So no, I'm a fan, but my love of them will forever be unrequited, I think.
Okay. Mark, you're being exiled and can only take 3 things with you, but they must start with the letter K. What are they?
What was the letter K?
K for Kimi.
I can only take 3 things with me, so can I take kin, as in family? Am I allowed to take my family?
I never even thought of that. Yes,
right,
you
so
can.
I'm taking the kin.
Kin.
I'm taking the kin. I am looking around me. I'm looking around me as I sit here in my office thinking, oh no, I can't take my guitars. I can't take any of my hats. I can't take my stuffed owl. None of these things begin with K. I'm trying to think if there's any particular food stuff I like that begins with a K. I can't even think of. I can think of very few things that actually begin with K. You've actually picked a really tricky letter there. I'm going to take King of America, the album by Elvis Costello, which is one of my favourite Elvis Costello albums. That's 2, isn't it? But I'm fine. As long as I've got my family, then I can take some fairly trivial things that begin with K. What else am I going to take that begins with K? I'm going to take... let me come back to the third one.
Which song would you say sums up your life so far?
Well, I don't know, maybe
Kylie.
Minogue. But I mean, here they go. Can I take Kylie Minogue? My first thing. I've been very lucky. I've just been hugely lucky. I mean, right when I do workshops and masterclasses and what have you for unpublished authors, and then they want to know how to be published, I just say work hard and be lucky. You know, you have to keep being lucky. I mean, I'm a strong believer in that old expression of the harder I work, the luckier I get. You know, I grabbed my luck with both hands, and I've worked very hard ever since I had it. But I had that stroke of luck to get published very quickly. And you know, and that's about your manuscript writing and landing on the right desk at the right time, and the right agent taking you on, and all that stuff. You know, I've been very lucky in that I've managed to avoid a proper job most of my life. I've only had one proper job ever, and that's when I worked as a cleaner at a holiday camp when I was at school. But you know, I've been an actor and a comedian and a writer, and they're three fantastic jobs that I've loved. But you know, none of them are digging a ditch, none of them are curing cancer. But I've loved every minute of all of them. So yeah,
that's all you can ask for.
It is.
Okay, final question. You're touched that you like music. You've said you like music. Yeah, this year sees Royal Mail releasing commemorative stamps for Pink Floyd in honour of Dark Side of the Moon. If you were to be another brick in the wall, which brick would you be?
Which brick would I be in what wall?
Just...
You have to give me a particular wall that I want to be a brick in.
No, you can select it.
I'm not even sure I know what that means. It's a bit early in the day for that kind of existential stuff. I'm very happy to be a brick in a wall of crime writers. And it is a wall because it's quite a solid thing. You know, it's a lot of fun being a crime writer, and it's a very nice gang to be part of. They're a very clubbable bunch and a very collegiate bunch. Which is just proven by the fact that next couple of weeks I'm going to be touring around America, appearing with a bunch of world-renowned, world-class crime writers who are just doing me a favour to come out and talk to me, at events. So it's a very nice wall to be a brick in, and it's a fairly solid wall. It's a very big wall that goes all around the world, and it's a wall in which there are bricks of many different types. There are cosy bricks, there are historical bricks, there are very dark and gritty bricks. There is a brick for almost everyone in the wonderful wall of crime fiction.
And with that, Mark Billingham, can I say thank you very much for talking to me today?
My pleasure. Thanks ever so much, Kimi.
Thanks.